Delighted to say James Tracy is with us to pick through a brilliant performance by Leinster at the weekend. It was right up there in terms of their European performances, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think to be fairly satisfied with how it went. You know, we had a couple of uglier wins throughout the year, but that was definitely a very pleasing performance, and probably inflated a tiny bit by the yellow card periods. But I still think they were in control and really executed the game plan, and there was a lot of slick play, and the kicking was excellent. I just thought they controlled them really well. They were never going to hold Toulouse out. You know, they're like, Toulouse are such an amazing attacking side. They're always going to get a few scores.
That first 10 minutes was this wild roller coaster of up down, and you're kind of like, oh, Leinster haven't had the ball here. But then when they did get the ball, they would score.
Yeah, so I think like what set the tone anyway for me in discipline was that first kind of. So Ramos had done that incredible 50-22, and they'd scored off the back of that, and you know, straight away off the kickoff, Leinster turn over the ball, and they give away like a seatbelt tackle on Ringrose, and it was just like every time they'd have a good moment, they'd follow it with two bad moments, and it was just that was kind of their downfall. I feel like they were kind of getting in the way of themselves, just in that respect. I think. It's such a pleasure to watching Dupont at 9, but he's so dangerous and just so abrasive. You know, and if you could just see, you know, that you're kind of following around like herding sheep, because like it's just you don't want to get like you don't want to break the chain in the line, because once he takes on one person and you miss him, he's gone.
Yeah,
he's incredible.
Like beating 3 or 4 of the world's best tacklers, you know, in the space of 5 yards. Oh my God, this is. But then he would run into traffic, and was that a function of them moving him out of 9 as much as anything? Because during the game, Andy Dunn was like, they've made 4 positional switches here to accommodate the injury that they've had, which doesn't really make that much sense. And then afterwards, Leo Cullen was like, well, we've actually seen him play a 10 recently, and we had planned for that. So they'd obviously done their homework, and they knew that this was a possibility. But it doesn't make sense, does it?
So the reason why they did it is they went for a 6-2 split on the bench. So you're losing one of your kind of utility backs, and you're basically banking that you're gonna like beat the other pack up. So you're stacking your bench with forwards, and you're just trying to go after their pack, whether it be scrum, line out, breakdown, everything. So you're telling the guys who are starting, you empty the tank, because we nearly have a full pack ready to come on. But the downside to that is you get one injury in the backs and you have everyone playing out of position, and you're just juggling around. Now Dupont is you could put him anywhere and he'd be very good, but he's the best 9 in the world, so you want him playing 9.
Yeah.
And that's probably the frustrating part for Toulouse, but that's the tactical side of the game, where sometimes, you know, you push the chips in and it doesn't go your way.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it.
As a player on Leinster, right, when you see the change happening and you're looking around going, they're going to be getting Dupont on the ball maybe 35% less than he would be if he was at every breakdown.
Yeah.
I'm delighted about that, right?
Oh, you know, if you're defending around the breakdown, happy days. He's at out half. You know, you've a lot more people around you.
You can line him up from a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not as 1-on-1. Well, the ball's quick, and you know you're either like folding around the ruck, or you're getting back after a line break. He's looking for your body language on what you're looking at, where you're standing, how you're standing, and you don't have time to fix it. While when the ball's in the air from one pass, all of a sudden you have more read time and you have more people around you to help you. It makes someone like him, what he's unbelievable at, it just kind of like mitigates it a little bit, and probably to their own detriment. But as I said, it comes from that 6-2 split, which is it works. Like South Africa would use it quite a lot, and they have these giants coming on and do a great job, but that's the downside.
And Paul Grau's passing is a bit more telegraphed slightly than Dupont's, so you almost have that element of speed and fear factor just completely gone when Dupont's gone from 9.
Yeah, and I listen, there's no slight on whoever comes in to replace Dupont. You know, you're replacing the best player in the world, so no one is going to be as good right now anyway. So it's always going to be a slight step down. But I thought he had a good game. Again, it was just you're kind of taking, you're taking the best player out of position, so it's not going to be as effective. But I think when you peel it all back, that's not why they lost the game. They lost the game through discipline and that was really it. It was discipline and Leinster forcing them into pressure situations with really clever attacking kicks and attack, and they defended very well as well. They'd be satisfied with that.
It was super ruthless as well in terms of attack from Leinster. Like you would have said, if the score had been closer to even at half time, that might have been a reflection in terms of possession and control. But Leinster were absolutely efficient and ruthless whenever they got the opportunity.
Yeah, and you know, they would have obviously practiced to get all of your attacking plays right and really well, and Toulouse did a good job a few times at coming up with a few big turnovers, and that's going to be the same kind of threat down the road, whether it be the Sharks this weekend or La Rochelle in the final. Like, there's going to be an unbelievable amount of pressure on the breakdown. But I thought Leinster's breakdown work was phenomenal. I thought James Ryan again, if you get a chance to player cam him and some of his clean out work, it's top drawer, and it creates a space then for other people, because he's taken one or two people off their feet in the breakdown, and just been very, very effective at his job.
Ross Maloney got the start, which was obviously a big vote of confidence for him. It means you've got Jason Jenkins in reserve for when the big pack reserves are coming on for Toulouse. It's almost as if maybe we underrated how much development and evolution he's had and the pack have had, and also afterwards they're like, oh, we've learned how to play against bigger men. So that narrative that we've all had, that if you trace back all the defeats since they last won it, has been big man for Saracens, big man for Saracens, big man for La Rochelle, big man for La Rochelle. It's obviously a complete distillation down to one thing, which rugby never is, but they seem to have understood ways to deal better with that threat of the giants.
Yeah, it's to a certain extent. You know, I feel like a few of the games that they've lost, you know, like the La Rochelle game came down to the last play, and you know, what it really turned on was the bounce of a ball. So if you remember, there was a drop kick kind of to nothing. It bounces probably half a foot from the dead ball line, and back into the field. Johnny catches it. He proceeded, he was going to kick, shapes to kick, and I can't remember where he took it, but anyway, they followed the kick. So Johnny passes it to Hugo, who gets tackled, and eventually they turn the ball over. And it's like, if that ball goes dead, you know, you're back in the opposition half, and all of a sudden you're 2 scores ahead, and it's a different game, and that final period is just kind of all them out management. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. But this is the small margins, you know. So you get that right. Leinster were in control for a lot of that final, and La Rochelle just did a brilliant job of clawing their way back in. And it comes down to little moments, and you just win one or two more little moments, and that's all it is. And people are quick to point at big, what seem obvious things, but it's not always that.
Pre-game, going through it, it was like, ooh, Leinster are missing a few key players, and we still talk about Sexton. Henshaw came out late in the week, and James Lowe, 3 elite players who you would genuinely say are in contention for being in any team, in any world class, right? Whatever you mean by that. And looked like Toulouse had beefed up their team from last year, and you know, Dupont and Ntamak. But I was actually worried before the game, and then as the game went on, you're like, wow, Leinster are really, really good. One of the things that really surprised me was just how good Charlie Ngatai was. I thought he was in contention for man of the match because of the things that he did when he did them.
Yeah, he's incredible. So we would play it against Leon, and he's been a standout player for so long. Jamesy Gibson Park, actually, they go way back into school, and he said he was probably one of the most talented schools players that he's ever seen. So he was kind of chuffed that this guy was coming to Leinster. We'd only kind of seen bits of when we'd been playing in Europe against him, but anything we'd seen, he was class. He comes in and just one of the most skillful guys, and he's an unbelievable step and jinkiness to him, but he's quite a solid man.
Oh yeah, huge tackles.
Oh, and incredible you know, the offload he gave to Rob Russell in the corner. In the RDS was he's getting dragged and touched by 2 people, and just flicks it up under. It was just, he has these little touches of skill that are incredible. And I think his 50-22 was a huge turning point. He had a huge poach even at one point in the first half. That was another big turning point in the game. and he'll bring a real coolness and calmness to that back line, as well as having those class kind of touches.
And he hadn't played since January.
That's the nearly more impressive thing. Like, he comes straight back in and you almost forget about Robbie Henshaw.
I think, well, we definitely don't forget about Robbie Henshaw, but the thing is, when you're experienced like him, it's easier to kind of step back in. You don't have those same nerves and everything like that. I wouldn't have been worried at all about him slotting back in, just because of his age profile, how experienced he is, how much of a leader he'd be in that group. He would have been chomping on the bits playing those sorts of games. Like, that's why he came to Leinster, was to be involved in those sorts of days, especially against friends. It's a lot of familiar scenarios to him. He would have known a lot of those players, played against them a lot, so he would have been happy out and leading the charge in the build up in the week. I
don't know who got, was it Gibson Park got the man of the match in the stadium possibly, but like who stood out most of all for you? Like, you had Dan Sheehan and James Ryan, brilliant as well. Ngatai we've mentioned. Like, there was a number of options there you could have
picked. I thought the 2 second rows were unbelievable. I think, like, Ross Maloney's been an unsung hero for so long. James Ryan, we know, is incredible. He again, as I said, he was amazing. But I thought like, it was a lot of pressure. Probably isn't a big narrative around it because he did well. But Ross Byrne, if he'd had a bad game, he would have been out with the pitchforks. I thought he was phenomenal. He just steered the ship so well, so calm, so confident, and just that's the years of performing and doing well when the spotlight was on everyone else is kind of coming to fruition now, and
all the games he's played.
And I think as well, Conan at 8, like, reminding everyone why he's a Lions test starter, and I'd picked him at 6. Still back that decision, but he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think, like, the balance that back row is looking good, whatever way you want to play it. But I'm delighted for him now that he's back in form, and not just the tries, but he had a lot of very good involvements around the field. So to answer your question, I've given a few players there, but I think there was quite the thing is, I wouldn't like to be doing man of the match unless it's quite obvious on the day, but like, there was probably a lot of guys that were worth looking at, and just, again, understanding of game scenarios and everything like that. I thought it was just a really, really good day.
Saw someone pointing at Ross Byrne afterwards, making I think they used the phrase, this is his team now, and there is a sense of leadership about Ross Byrne as well, isn't there, of late, that he's really taken the position and made it his own. And
in fairness, as I said, he's been probably doing that for 3, 4, 5 years, but you probably don't see it as much until now when you're on centre stage. So I've known him as that leader, but it's great now that he's finally doing it. He's finally been recognised for it on the big stage, so it's been good.
Jimmy O'Brien's evolution into a winger at this level, where James Lowe is out, but there's no step down, it feels like.
Yeah, again, different type of player, I think. But yeah, he's, as I said, I didn't see winger coming. Like I said, I could see him playing any position, but winger, I did not see him getting to this level at it, and I'm just delighted for him. He's the most talented lad I saw go through Newbridge College in my time. I remember watching him, single-handedly clawing back a Senior Cup semi-final and getting into the next game, and just thinking, wow, this kid's got something else.
He was playing out half at that stage.
He was playing everywhere. He was playing 12 out half, and like, he wasn't taking the kicks, and scored the try in the corner and grabbed the ball and kicked the conversion from the touchline. And you're just like, this kid is.
Is his future at wing? Like, it may well be, given the age profile of the other wingers. And he must be beginning to put some pressure on those wingers for the Ireland team. Or if you were like thinking long term now, should he try and become a centre? Do you just take whatever you can get when you're getting into the Ireland team?
I think he will take whatever he can get, but it'll be wing for right now, and then if an opportunity opens up somewhere else, he'll seamlessly slot in there. He's the benefit of being very good at a lot of positions. He's now at a level where he could actually be a winger, or he could be whatever. A lot of utility, don't want to say utility for him, but because he kind of falls into that bracket. But a lot of utility are kind of like decent at everything. At least he's at a level now where he could be a starting winger, no problem. He could be a starting fullback, no problem.
definitely puts you in the conversation with the 23 on match day anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he'd be like nailed down in my mind anyway. Right now, that's kind of his jersey. If he's not starting, like if he keeps this sort of form up, he could find his way on the field.
A note here, slightly different from Dennis Ryan. Ask James about the Porter non-yellow/red card right in front of Barnes. Irish provinces get a lot of the rub of the green from the referees. Toulouse fans not happy with the refereeing.
Yeah, I feel like it's very frustrating when you're away, right? You feel like everything does go against you, and that's the crowd, everything like plays a difference. Like the old dodgy French TV staff, and like we don't show the replays for different. But I feel like that's like we that's our perspective because we're looking at it from that, and I'm sure they feel the same looking the other way.
Well, we didn't see a replay of it in the stadium, so I actually saw it in real time.
And if it was in France, we would have been given out. So I feel like that's the home advantage. I didn't feel like it was a yellow card, definitely not a red card. It probably was a little bit late and maybe a penalty, a little bit silly, but 100% wasn't a card. I didn't feel like. Like you look at the bits of like the Toulouse ill discipline at times.
Madness.
Like the flying headbutt, and like I saw some people talking about like, Van der Fleer milks a bit. He gets clocked by this giant in the jaw, and then he's entitled to counter ruck, right? So if they're setting up a ruck kick, you want to put kick pressure on the 9 by attacking the ruck. He's standing upright. That's a cue. So like if they're not looking at you or they're standing upright, there's your 2 cues that it's a good opportunity to try counter ruck this fella. He's standing upright, but like come at me, right? So anyway, first attempt. And he clocks him in the jaw, and he's like, right, well, he's still standing upright, so I should probably have another go at this again. And then he clobbers him again with his head, like he's trying to hit, like he's trying to hit. He's trying to get him.
Yeah.
And then you have the tight head then kind of like tussles him to the ground. It's like shoving his head into the ground. And then they're wondering why they're getting a sent off, or whatever. But like maybe they let that go in the top 14, but like. Come on, it's common sense there. There's been I call that like being a dummy tough man, where like you're acting like the big man, or whatever. But like there's plenty of ways where you can assert dominance and aggression in a way that's not a penalty or a yellow card. But like that is just like mindless stuff.
Yeah. I must talk to you about the scrum, but we'll get time to do that again. I do want to talk to you about the refereeing, because the refereeing is going to be very important in the final, right?
Yeah. Massively. Yeah. I feel like the French teams, and watching that La Rochelle game, last few La Rochelle games, like they really pushed the boundaries on the breakdown. Okay, so how are you going to stop Leinster? At source, breakdown seems to be kind of the narrative of how they go about it. So we are kind of dependent a lot on having good officials, because if they get away with kind of not holding their body weight and just killing the ball, there's not much you can do, really, and it's very frustrating when, yes, they give clean purchase on the ball, but a lot of times they're not on their feet, and they just get rewarded for time after time, and they might get pinged once or twice, but then the momentum swings and they're getting rewarded for it, and again, another thing that frustrates me is like Bougarit off the back of the line out, like he breaks the 15 so much, so like the ball, you're not allowed to break the 15 as the hooker.
Breaking the 15 is.
So you're standing on the 15 as the hooker. You're not allowed leave into open play until the ball is left either the jumper who's caught its hands, or one of the back line approaches 10. So then again, he breaks. So they have to be 10 metres back. When they break that 10 metres, then the line it's over as well. Or if, say, it's a maul, it moves forward, the ref's arm goes down, line out's over. So there's a few things, but they always chance their arm of, so it'll be caught here, he'll already be 2 metres outside, because then once it's off the top, he's already built that space in the seam between the
you can't attack
that you can't attack into, and it's just so frustrating to watch. But yeah, hopefully there's good officiating and stuff like that, because if they're killing the breakdown all the time, it's gonna like ruin the game a little bit. So I hope that
does that become a topic of conversation now that we've raised it in the build up to this? Is that the type of thing that if you were involved with Leinster, that they would be briefing the referee saying, here's the video, we're just saying this is a thing, it's just something we've noticed. You can do what you want with the referee.
I've never been involved in those conversations, so I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask Leo on that. But it's definitely something that I can say now because I'm not in it. But I was felt at the time. I remember looking at the footage, just been like, like, you know, your body is incredibly good at disrupting, but a lot of the time not legally. You know, and you've a lot of guys that are incredibly good at disrupting play, like Skelton. You know, he's good at like lying on top of people, and he's got a lot of things, but I mean he's very good at the dark arts, and I feel like he gets away with a lot of it as well. And listen, a lot of those, they're all world class at rugby, but they're also world class at the dark arts, and I feel like it's a part of the game that you know it's just very frustrating when they're getting away with it.
All right, well the build up has officially started. James, good stuff. It's a really busy. Every game is at the Aviva for Leinster from now on. The RDS, I think, is unavailable because of its concert season and various other reasons. So that's good and bad in some ways.
Yeah. I think like we've a tough run in. Like we've a knockout game this week, and then like hopefully another knockout game. You know, while the likes of Rochelle have, you don't necessarily need to win their two games. They're away games, but they don't need to win them necessarily. Like the Sharks, the South African teams are incredibly attritional to play against as well. So it's going to be a tough few weeks. I feel like the Aviva is a special place to play. So you know they'll relish that. But let's hope there's somewhat close to a full house, if not a full house, because that's what really makes it. It's the atmosphere, and that's the home advantage part, you know. And
the final is sold out. Leinster fans bought tickets early, and often it turns out.
Yeah.
I think the atmosphere for the final should be very special. Good stuff, James. Thanks a million for joining us.